Welcome to the Multiversity Coffee Break. I am Brian, and I'm drinking coffee from the mug my daughter painted for me. Oh,
That is so sweet.
yeah. Introduce yourself, friend.
Hello, everyone. I'm Liana Kangas, and I'm a comic illustrator. And I have worked on things like She Said Destroy and the Black AF universe, and Guar. And I have a new Trve Kvlt Kickstarter that is currently running for the month of October. And I'm drinking actually Rootless Coffee Company, which is run by a comics writer, dark coffee out of a mug that my collaborator Gab Contreras bought me. So very comics related.
Yes. Let's talk about the Kickstarter for a second. I was intrigued by the description that you guys have on the, when you look at the Kickstarter front page, it says that it is a heavy metal fast food crime comic. What does that mean? I love what that sounds like, but I have no idea what that means.
That makes me so happy that you looked at it. First of all, thank you. And second,
I'm a quasi-professional. I look at things. I do my research.
I do the research. So Scott and I had met when I was living in Jersey, and we became, quick comic buds. And him and I have this very kind of, we both really like music a lot. Like music is our other big, hobby. And I really enjoy metal music. And we had talked about that for a long time and always kind of were like, hey, what are we going to collaborate on? Blah, blah, blah. And he had this idea for this fast food heist, but also it has a lot of music elements. So the main character is really into metal music. And I won't spoil much. I don't want to give too much away, but I use music personally too when I'm working on it, in terms of I make playlists for every character, and there's kind of dialogue drops of things referencing music a lot. So that, and it has just that heavy metal kind of grungy do-it-yourself vibe, in words of Jaslyn Stone, who's also on the book, who helps us market it. It's kind of it feels very high school college-y to me, in terms of where you remember yourself at in terms of that, limitless opportunities, but also as a teenager, what were we all doing? I know I was shooting the shit, all that stuff. So
right. So you say that you like metal. What kind of metal do you like? I feel like if you talk to 5 different people about metal, you kind of get 5 different answers. So what do you define as metal? What is your stuff?
My biggest, I'm a big Iron Maiden fan. So my biggest, I guess I could just list some of the shows that I've been to, but Iron Maiden, I've tried to go to King Diamond concerts, but it got canceled. My brother was really into them, so I got into them. Slayer, I've been to a couple Slayer concerts, actually. Fun fact, I got kicked in the face at a Slayer concert before.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, gosh.
What show was I kicked in the face at? Primus.
Oh my gosh!
The Primus show in 1999 or 2000.
Oh wow! I'm glad that you didn't bat an eye at me saying that I got kicked in the face, because a lot of people are like, "Whoa,
no, I lost.
What?"
They kicked my glasses under the stage. I was in the front, and my glass, and the security guard was like, "I'm sorry, I can't help you." So I was wandering out of the Hammerstein Ballroom, or Roseland in New York City, without glasses on, just blind to the world. So
okay, so was it somebody performing on stage, or was it somebody in the crowd?
The crowd.
Okay, because I have seen some people accidentally get kicked in the face, being always front bar, right? I'm sure you are, seeing as you were probably near the front bar for Primus, I am always trying to be the closest I can get, but sometimes, depending on how small venues are, I saw Parquet Courts in Memphis. Okay. And here they don't have bar setups. It's they're on a stage, and my shins were bruised from just being smashed into the stage because I was first there. We got there 2 hours early because we're we'd never be able to see them in Brooklyn. It's too expensive, and Brooklyn's too, that's where they're from. Yeah. So we're like, this is the greatest opportunity. And we also saw Run the Jewels here. And they too kind of have a weird setup where I don't know if that's just maybe a Jersey, New York thing, having those, the big stage bars set up. Yeah, the barricade. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't know. I remember like when I talk about this stuff now, I feel like the world's oldest man, but like I remember being at shows where it was so hot they would spray you with a hose.
Yes.
Like, and sometimes they would give you water because like people in the front were like pressed up against the barricades. They would give you a bottle of water. It's like, dude, don't die. Here you go.
Yeah.
And I feel like that stuff doesn't really happen anymore, but I don't know.
All the kids that didn't like Guar would go to the Guar shows, like during the outdoor festivals and stuff like that, like Ozfest and things like that when I was growing up in Florida, and would still go just because you knew that you'd get sprayed by the colored water or whatever that they're spraying out. So, worth it. Guar being one of them, I guess. I think metal is, such an umbrella term, kind of like rock or indie.
Right.
But
yeah,
I'm glad to know that you're a fellow metal fan.
Yeah, I have fallen off my metal listening. I have to say over the years, like the peak of my metal listening was probably like early college. I went to see Pantera in 2001, and that was maybe like that was awesome. But I feel like after that, just my friends moved away from it. I feel like sometimes you just you need like your Sherpa to get you through something. Like, tell me what the good metal is. And I don't really have that guy anymore, that person in my life to like tell me what the good metal is anymore. So I've sort of fallen off of it a little bit. But like I have a cousin who plays bass in a metal band that's like huge in Germany. And so I still have my toe in that one. Yeah.
That sounds fun. You'll have to send me that afterwards.
Yeah, they're called Lotus Thief. They're like progressive metal, and they're really good. It's again, like I think it's really good. Maybe someone who's super into metal is like, this is terrible, but to me it sounds really good. But yeah, anyway, enough metal for now. Somebody in our Twitch stream asked what your favorite fast food is, since you're doing a fast food heavy metal comic.
My desert island fast food item is McDonald's fries, but it's funny because I had this long conversation about this a couple days ago. It has to be me requesting it freshly done. So I usually just say, hey, I'll wait, like, do you mind if I have a fresh batch or whatever? And
you
usually
want the hottest possible French fries.
Yes, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Otherwise they're soggy and like kind of
Yeah, I agree with that. My like desert island fast food item was just recently discontinued. I'm very mad about it. It was the Taco Bell spicy potato soft taco, which was like I have tried to recreate it at home and cannot do it as well. And they got rid of all their potato based stuff at Taco Bell, and I'm very, very mad about it.
I wonder if Bon Appetit will we should just all tweet at Bon Appetit and be like, please help us remake this. We need it. We need it.
It was the sauce I couldn't do. So I'll work on it. I consider myself a halfway decent cook. So I'll work on the sauce and I'll report back.
Yeah.
You are also sketching right now. So I'm gonna attempt to spotlight this video now. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
What are you working on right now?
I am working on an East of West commission. For those that haven't read it, I actually just started reading it during quarantine, and I'm having a grand old time. I just finished the first hardcover, I think a couple weeks ago, I want to say, like 2 weeks ago.
It's one of those books that is such a, I feel like once you buy into the world in which it's set, you just want to read a million more stories set in that world.
Yeah, you want every backstory of everybody. You want all the side stories of what's going on. You can only fit so much in a book, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The world building is incredible. It's definitely my favorite part so far.
We had a couple more questions here from the Twitch stream. Any plans to release the playlist you use as inspirations for Trve Kvlt?
Oh, 100%, yeah. Especially now that we've talked about it on stream, I think that's the first time I've brought it up. So
okay.
I can't wait. Yeah.
Awesome. It's very cool. Next question here we got. You've done a lot of anthologies. Is there one story in particular that was your favorite from an anthology?
Oh, I think it's tied between two that I've done. One is with Erica Schultz, which was with the Where We Live anthology. mostly because her and I had bonded prior to that, and the story was kind of an amalgam of her take of, we both had fathers that passed away fairly recently, and then when she was asked to do it, she kind of like, it wasn't drawn from, you know, past experiences, but it was definitely like really relatable and stuff for me. So I like deeply connected with the story, and it's how Erica and I became friends and, you know, further collaborators. And second to that is the Deadbeat story that I did with Trve Kvlt, which my She Said Destroy collaborator Joe was the editor on that book as well.
Okay.
Eric had wrote it, and he actually wrote it about like a metal band member that kind of like sold his soul to the devil, and I was like, I love this so much. But I actually kind of like did designs based off of some of my favorite musicians and stuff like that, and he was like, yeah, like going along with it, like just the way he wrote it in such a short amount of pages is one of my favorite things.
That's really cool. Wonderful. I'm sorry to hear about your dad. I am also recently in the lost a dad category, so
giving you a little bit of an elbow and a virtual hug there.
Yeah, yes, I feel you on that.
I think it's interesting. Not a lot of I like finding comics that talk about grief, because I don't tend to find a lot of them, and it's nice to kind of have that community with somebody that's like lost a parent or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm really big about like mental health and things like that, with I guess connecting with people. So it was kind of nice to have not only the thing relating to where we live, and in that it was all of the money, I guess, went to the survivors and the family of the survivors of the Las Vegas thing. And just to kind of commiserate with somebody at the same time was really nice.
I totally understand that. Absolutely. So I'm gonna spotlight your drawing in here for a few minutes. How is it going with not having conventions and all that? Are you finding ways to still get commissions out to people?
Yeah, I've had a lot of big help from a friend of mine, Marie, who helps me kind of facilitate some of my commissions and stuff like that. And I just opened my shop for New York Comic Con, actually, the Metaverse, which closes in 2 days, to kind of hope, like, not unload the books, but I would like the stories to get to people that wouldn't maybe usually go into comic shops and pick it up off the shelf.
Right.
And kind of like we were talking about before, in terms of doing this as a new thing to connect with people and connect with your current friends that you wouldn't, that you'd normally see at conventions.
Yeah.
It's been interesting to try and, find that medium of what's working. And everything's trial and error at this point. I'm like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks.
That's I think what we're all doing right now. It's so weird. Like New York Comic Con has been a part of my life for 10 or 11 years now, and I think I've been sort of rolling with the punches with this pandemic thing pretty well. But about a month ago, I realized it was the first day where there was like a fall crispness to the air, and I was like, "Oh, it feels like New York Comic Con." Shit, I can't go to New York Comic Con this year. It was that moment of realization that it wasn't going to happen.
Especially for, somebody that's gone 10 years in a row, right? Whether or not, I see a lot of my friends, especially the ones in Jersey, that even before they were creators, they still went as like, that's their thing that they did with their friends. And so it's kind of a bummer to see everybody. So,
my friend Kate, who works with me at Multiversity, she said that to honor the start of New York Comic Con on Thursday, she was going to wait in line for a bathroom for 15 minutes and $5 for a glass of water. So that was a fitting tribute to New York Comic Con.
Tell her I laughed heartily at that, and also I heavily relate. And hey, you know what? Maybe next time I see a really, really, really long like coffee line, I'll go wait.
Exactly.
And pay extra for it.
Every year, one of my New York Comic Con traditions is, and it's never a planned tradition, is at some point I'm so tired and so hungry, I buy one of the pretzels in Artist Alley, and it's every year. Never a good pretzel. And I feel like pretzel's not that hard to mess up, but they mess it up every year. And so I'll have to eat a bad pretzel in the next few weeks, and that'll be my my New York Comic Con moment there. So,
You're a coffee drinker. Question to you is, which area did you go get coffee in every day?
so what I would do is I would, on the like bus or train into the city, I would pound coffee, and then I would go to Starbucks on the way in and fill up my big like mug, I fill it like reusable mug, and I would try and make that last me as long as I could. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but if I would have to, I would always leave the Javits Center for coffee because those lines just gave me panic attacks.
Yeah. I always did the Starbucks that's on the left-hand side of the main entryway during the
Yes.
construction.
Yeah.
I'd literally just leave to go get coffee and then go back in line to go back because it was so much shorter.
Yeah. There's no reason to wait that whole time inside. It's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. So we were talking about drums a little bit. You told me you just recently started playing the drums?
Yeah. Kind of since January. And I took a month off because I had a skateboarding accident. But maybe like a month and a half. But yeah. So it's been like 8 months-ish.
Okay. What made you decide, like, I'm an adult, I am I have a career, I'm gonna become a drummer now too. What led to that decision?
I realized I was working a lot and I love drawing, so I would just keep doing it regardless of whatever I was working on.
Mhm.
And at one point I was just like, I need a hobby. I just, I already read comics as a hobby, and part of me goes through phases where I'm like either too busy to play video games or not busy enough. And so I immerse myself heavily, like that happened with Destiny. Um, and I was like, okay, I'm reading almost a trade a day. I'm working 8 hours a day. I need something that's like outside of exercise for me to do. And I love playing music, or I love music in general, but rhythm and like honestly, smashing a drum set sounded so nice, and so I was like, I would really love to try it, and it seems like sort of mathematical to me in that
Sure.
you know learning how to keep a beat and like the fractions of how you have to keep the beat
Mhm.
sounded like a good challenge. So here
How do
we
you
are.
feel you're doing in your first year as a drummer?
I think that I could be doing better, but I am very hard on myself. Very
Okay.
hard on myself. And I would like to spend more intentional, almost kind of like taking a class or something like that. Like I would really love to do that because I enjoy learning, and um, education is a big part. But lucky for me, like, so John O'Deener, who is a comics writer and who I actually am working with for the Inevitables project, he is a professional drummer as well. And so
Okay.
it's kind of been nice. I have a drummer friend, Terrence Clark, who is here in Memphis. And both of them being my friends, it's kind of nice to be able to be like, hey, what am I doing wrong? Like, hey, can you help me? Like, John has helped me a lot with like drummer specific stretches and things like that. So it's helped a lot. But
That's really
I
cool.
think, yeah. Did you ever like do something where you went back and tried to learn the basics or like take any type of class for it?
Yeah, so I've been playing music since I was pretty young. My first instrument was the drums, like in the school band, but that's not really playing like a drum kit or anything. But I've always kind of messed around with music. But about, I guess, 4 or 5, no, it must be longer than that. My daughter's 8, so I guess about 8 years old. 8 years ago, I bought a ukulele, which I see you have in the background there. Uh,
Yeah.
because I wanted an instrument that I could play for her when she was a baby that wouldn't be too loud. And it forced me to like learn very basic things again. And it was weird because not that I'm this virtuoso on anything, but it was just weird to go back to like ground zero and start from scratch.
Yeah.
And I actually found it really satisfying to do that because I think with so many other things, I've fallen into bad habits that just come from playing it. You know, I play the bass mostly now, and like I have some sloppy habits because I'm not disciplined anymore with it. Where it was like with the uke, I could focus and like make sure I was doing it right in a way. So yeah,
Right.
I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I think my first intention, like beyond just learning songs that I enjoy, which I think is a totally normal thing, or at least maybe that's just my
Oh no,
um,
that's totally normal. Yeah.
it was kind of gratifying for my friend to be like, yeah, that's how most drummers learn, is just like listening to songs. I'm like, oh, thank God. But I'll listen to really good drummers like, I think his name is Anderson Paak,
Yeah.
where he's like a creator and a drummer and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, that'd be really cool to like one day just be able to like create a whole song myself. But definitely to get there, I know that one of the steps is going to be me retracting and going back and like deconstructing how I guess I hear it, and then learn from, you know, the basics or the
Sure.
masters or whatever.
Sure.
But the, you know, part of me wishes that it doesn't take a lot of time to do that. Patience for everything else, you know, is just kind of like, okay, where can I grab some patience where I could add it to that, you know?
I totally
In
understand
terms
that.
of,
Yes.
so.
So who are some of your favorite drummers?
Oh gosh, Anderson Paak for definitely. Matt Helders. He is probably my favorite drummer. I want to say he's the drummer for Arctic Monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
He's so like wild and kind of primal for some of his stuff, but seems super intentional. Um, Kevin, I didn't know this, and I only just recently found out. The guy from Tame Impala, Kevin,
Uh-huh.
he composes all of his own drums for the albums first.
Oh wow. I
So
didn't
like
know.
the drummer on tour is just like, you know, the performer.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild. And that's actually Tame Impala is one of the main bands that I like learning some of the songs from
Sure.
some of their last albums. Joey Castillo is actually the reason why I really, really love drumming, like a lot. I
Okay.
actually have a set of sticks by him somewhere. I just rearranged my office, so I might have misplaced them. But he's, you know, Queens of Stone Age and everything
Yep.
was one of my favorites in terms of, that was like my first favorite band. And
Okay.
I guess I don't normally consider them metal, but they did start off very metal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There are metal elements to them for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw
Um,
Joey Castillo play with them Lollapalooza '03, I think maybe.
ooh. Lollapalooza's Chicago, right? Or no?
Well, it was back when it was touring. And so
Oh,
I
okay.
saw it not far from where you used to live at. I saw it at the PNC Art Center uh, in Holmdel.
That's wild.
Yeah. That
What is
tour
the
was,
one thing you miss about concerts?
oh, I miss everything about concerts.
Every single part.
I mean, like, I was talking to a friend of mine, just like, I probably go to a concert a month during normal times or so. I
Yeah.
try to go to a lot of live music. I love live music. And I feel like I just don't know what it's going to look like at all. Like some things that I'm not a pot smoker really, but like people offering you a joint at a concert will never happen again. Right. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how, like will crowd surfing be a thing again? I think it eventually will be, but probably not for a while, you know. I love being in like a sweaty mass of people dancing to a band, and I just don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Weird. I don't know. What was the last show you saw before the shutdown?
I do believe it was possibly Ariana Grande.
Okay, that's fun.
Yeah. I went with a group of people here, which they're really fun. And, you know, it's definitely like, I was like, this sounds like a really fun dancing concert. It was not, but that's okay. It was like one or two songs where I was like, yeah, I had a couple drinks. It was great. I'll do it. I don't care what people think of me, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And before that, I think it was Metronomy at Brooklyn Steel,
Oh wow.
which was, I think, 7 months before that. It was when I
Okay.
was still in Jersey. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that was a while ago.
I went to two night. I'm a big fan of the band Ween. I went to two Ween shows in February, and then I went to a show actually the Monday before the shutdown happened. I was just telling my friend about this. There's a singer songwriter from the like 70s called Jonathan Richman. He was in the Modern Lovers, and like I love Jonathan Richman. He was opening for Bonnie Prince Billy, who I don't dislike, but not I like, but not a super
Yeah.
great love of mine. And so I went to the show, and I had worked like 60 hours the weekend before. It was a Monday night, and so I stayed for
Oh my
Jonathan Richman,
gosh.
and then I left. And I was like, I'm too tired. And looking back now, if I knew that would be my last show until maybe 2022, I'd have stayed the whole fucking night and stayed for the encore and whatever else, you know. But I was just beat, and I was, you know, I saw the artist I really cared about, and I went home.
Yep.
I would not do that again now.
The last time I did like the multiple dates touring thing
Uh,
was, I think, when Iggy Pop was doing that Philly, Jersey, New York run.
was that when he
Um,
had from Queens, Josh
yeah,
Homme? I didn't see that tour. I'm so mad I didn't see that tour.
it, I mean, I don't want to be that guy to be like, it was really great. It's definitely not Iggy Pop that you would think that you'd
Right,
see, but
right,
it was very fun and he was super energetic. And it was, I'm like, I'm so glad that I, saw that, right?
yeah,
Because that would be something that I don't normally get to see. New York has such a great, like, phenomenal lineup of venues that you could go to.
yeah.
And I'm bummed that I didn't get to go to all of them. Like, even when, um, like, Mini Mansions came to, I think it was in Manhattan, but I was like, I'm going to try and see every show of that too, or like the last Shadow Puppets when they all came. Um, and I feel like there could have been, other than Guar, which I saw on Halloween at, what's the venue in Manhattan that normally looks like a theater? That's a very vague question, and I feel like there's probably many of them.
Is it like the Manhattan Center, the Hammerstein Ballroom, that one down there?
It's not the Hammerstein Ballroom. I did see the last Shadow Puppets there, I think.
Okay. 105.
Um,
I'm trying to think of like a venue that Guar would play in, like a bigger venue, right?
it was kind of surprisingly small
Oh, really?
for a Guar show. Like, I've seen bigger Guar shows in Orlando than
Wow.
that. It was pretty wild.
Where in Manhattan was it? I'll try and geographically locate it.
Let's see.
I'm sure
Um,
our listeners are just fascinated by this, but I don't
I
care.
think it was Lower East Side, maybe. Because I remember it wasn't that long after getting across the bridge.
It wasn't like the Bowery Ballroom.
I
That's
think it was.
it wasn't really okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a really weird, like, I saw there's like a famous meme guy that lives in New York where he has like the thing on the top of his head. Like, I saw him there at the show. I was like, what is happening? New York is so wild.
It is. It is. I miss hanging out. I obviously don't live in New York, but I miss hanging out in New York and just
Yes.
just the fun things that would happen. Yeah.
Did you ever like go to Forbidden Planet or like
Of course.
Midtown and like hang out with your friends, like grab food and like
Yeah, of
chill?
course.
That's like my favorite thing to do. And like that, I love, people will probably shoot me for this. I don't know. I love Jersey Transit. Like, that train is actually like a very comfortable, very relaxing train ride. Even watching drunk people go home, I'm like, it's a sight to be seen. It's a very comfortable 40 minutes for me. Like,
It's pretty affordable. It's pretty
yeah.
reliable. It's pretty frequent. Like you really don't get too much better than that. People are spoiled because of because of the New York subway system, which is just
Yeah.
which is super cheap and super consistent. But you know, it's but yeah, I agree with you. I got no hate for Jersey Transit.
I'm so glad. I was like, I'm going to either say something very heinous right now and everyone's going to unsubscribe, or
No.
there
So
was, speaking of, can I tell you like one quick weird
whatever you want.
story?
Sure.
I got tickets to see Jay-Z and Beyonce because I really like Jay-Z with a friend when I was living in Toronto. Little did we know that Lady Gaga was playing the same night at a different venue. So not only are you seeing Beyonce fans, you can definitely tell which ones are the Jay-Z fans or like with, you know, their partners or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can tell who the Lady Gaga fans are. And it was like, I believe it was a Blue Jays game that was like one of like the major games. So it was like 3 different sets of people all on the train, the GO train. And going home from all 3 of those things, all the drunk people from every show and the baseball game was just probably one of my favorite things.
That's awesome. One of my like favorite public transit memories is, so there used to be this thing that doesn't happen anymore. I worked in college radio when I was in college, and there was a thing called the CMJ Marathon. And so every college radio station would send their staff to New York City, and all the clubs in New York City would participate in this marathon of music. And so I had a badge that would get me into over 100 venues for a week.
Oh my gosh.
Until all these different artists would go and play there. But occasionally you would get these like bizarro lineups of shows. Like, for instance, this is not the story I'm talking about, but I saw the Dillinger Escape Plan open for Old Dirty Bastard.
What?
Yes, that's a thing I saw. It actually happened.
Did you stay for ODB?
Of course I did.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I had Hennessy poured in my mouth by one of his hype men. So, by
far, I think maybe my favorite concert story of all time.
I mean, like, how can you not love that? But what happened at this thing was you would get people. It's like 3 a.m. The late night venues are just letting out for the night, and these people have been drinking all day because a lot of times you get free drink tickets as part of this. Like these labels want you to come to their shows. They want you to write about it. So there's parties and drinks. But you would occasionally get these incredibly partisan people who would be on the train, and someone's wearing like a Beck shirt, and they can someone else is wearing I don't know what, whatever shirt, and you would see like fist fights of drunk college radio music nerds just like defending their band to the hilt. And I saw somebody literally punch someone else in the face and say, "That's for not liking the Moldy Peaches," which is like the least violent band in the world. So I just thought it was
that's a deep cut.
Just like the most amazing, violence for no real reason.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh. That's I love the passion and like ownership that people take over like music and like bands and stuff like that. In hindsight, it's very like weird and uncomfortable, but on the same ticket, it's like I'm so passionate about this like thing that was created that I'm willing to punch another guy in the face for.
Exactly. Well, and what's extra funny is I feel like if you get to know people who are musicians or who are in comics or who are actors, whatever, people in the arts aren't very competitive. They're very supportive of each other, and you like making friends who do similar things to what you do. And so you go to your friends' shows and you go to your friends' plays and you buy your friends' books, whatever. And it's this really like loving community. And yet there are people who just are so passionate that they will get violent if you don't think they are also the best. It's it's
very protective.
Yeah.
It's that toxic
fandom.
Fandom, and
What song are you learning on the drums right now? What's your current drum song?
I started learning a go-go song, and there's an old Queens of Stone Age song on the first self-titled album. Mm-hmm. I think it's called Teenage Hand Model.
Yep.
And then
it might have a slightly longer title. I feel like
yeah.
That's a good song.
I'm trying to learn, like I've nailed down like a Hive song, and I'm honestly trying some Fleetwood Mac songs.
What Fleetwood Mac song?
The Chain.
That's a fun song.
There's another one, and I don't remember. I have like a rotating list. I should send you the playlist of the songs that I'm working on. And I'm actually learning Patrick, that that runs Challengers with Dal. He's a huge like musician and stuff like that. I'm trying to learn a Kiss song, God of Thunder, for him because we're like all recording it together.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
That's super fun. I actually really like Josh Homme as a drummer. Like when he drums
Me too.
death metal. Yeah. There's a song on one of their albums. I think it's called Whore Hopping, but it's like damn that song. I love his drumming on that song. That's really fun drumming.
The one that starts with like the dun, 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 like with the cowbell or whatever.
Yes.
That he's like, yeah, I love that. I got a tambourine actually mostly because of Eagles of Death metal songs. I love it. I think that his style is a lot like Meg White's in a way that's very simple and visceral and like kind of leans into like the bass and like guitar on some songs.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or it's just basic enough to like keep the beat going.
Right. You know? But I like that sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
Not everybody needs to be Dave Grohl doing Queen songs, which I love too. But like, it's just not always a need for that.
That album though, I think might be my favorite album of Queen's for sure.
Oh, it's great. It's fantastic.
Like I love Joey, but that is a really good album.
Yeah, there is stuff on that album that I think I've seen them do it live, and it just isn't quite the same as when you hear Grohl do it on the album.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mikey, who's the I think he's one of the guitarists, right? Michael Schumann. He does drums for his other band, Mini Mansions, which I didn't really realize until I got really into them. And I was like, oh, wow. It's like a weird stand-up model where it's just like one drum and I think a cymbal.
Okay, yeah.
And I would love to learn how to do some of those, but the way the beats go with the other parts of the song, I haven't like quite been able to like immerse myself into trying to learn.
Yeah, I get really mad when people are really good at multiple instruments.
Yeah,
like, it's not right. You know,
it's the same with comics. You know, like artists that can like write and draw like a perfect epic story. I'm like, but also like I'm totally gonna buy this and read it many times.
So I this hasn't been announced anywhere yet, but next week's guest is Jeff Lemire, and Jeff is a guy who can do that. Like
you heard it here now, folks.
Yeah, exactly. Next week, tune in for Jeff. Maybe he's 2 weeks after. Now that I think that out loud, he's in the next 2 weeks. Jeff will be on the show. But I one time asked him, I was like, "So how do you do this? Like, how do you draw?" At the time, he was drawing Royal City. He was writing and drawing Royal City and writing like 4 other books. Like, how do you do this? He goes, "I'm gonna tell you a secret. Writing comics is easy." And I was like, "No, it's not. There are lots of people who wish they could do that well, and you're just showing off, Jeff. It's not cool." So.
I love that. Oh, I can't wait to attend that one. That one's gonna be real fun.
Yeah, and he wants to sketch during it, so that's
amazing.
Yeah.
I started watching the Cena Grace one.
Okay, yeah, it's great.
Love Cena, so hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I feel like sometimes people don't think of comics creators as like they just see them as names on paper. But one of the things that I love about going to conventions now is I think comics creators are really interesting people. They remind me of the people I hung out with in high school. And I mean that in like the highest possible complimentary way. Like just they remind me of folks that I'm drawn to them in the way I was drawn to my weirdo friends from high school. And so I just love hanging out and chatting and watching. So these things are super fun that I just love doing this stuff.
I 1000% agree. Like, if we all went to the same high school, we would all have been friends or like in the clique that like, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. So before I let you go, what are you reading during quarantine? What are some of the comics that you've been into? I know you said East of West. What else have you been reading lately?
So, you know how I brought up earlier that I'm trying to read a trade a day? Yes. I'm actually currently creating a Excel spreadsheet to send to Twitter for anybody interested. I've been trying to diversify like what publishers I pick up, sure. In terms of like trying to like help support like evenly kind of across the board and like also, you know, creator-owned works. I finished Wicked and Divine, which that was way earlier this year and it blew my mind. It was amazing. And I went back actually all the way to the beginning because like typically I read these when they're coming out in monthlies, but I'm at the point now where I still collect a monthly, but I put it in the closet and I don't look at it. And then I'm like, I'll just read it when the trade comes out. And then I buy the trade too. I guess I'm the perfect market for people, for me to buy their comics. And I'm doing that with sex criminals right now too. So like I'm going back. I read it, I guess, since it came out. And I realized that it's been how many years now? So I'm going back and rereading the trades. East to West, really good. I just read Sculptor for the first time.
I have not read Sculptor.
It's always been recommended to me, but if you want a good, ugly cry, I highly recommend. I blew through it in an afternoon, so that's a good one. Some of the stuff actually that I've recently been reading has been things that, you know, my friends are putting out. So I'm like currently reading The Vein, which is Elliot Ray Hall and Emily Pearson, both my friends. And I am trying to think of other books. Gosh.
That's a pretty good list.
It's at the point now where I do have a list, and like most of the books on the shelf are the ones that I've finished this year. A lot of Image books. Like I read Nomen Omen.
That's fun.
That was really interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool concept. And tons of recommendations from other friends. And I finally just read We Can Never Go Home.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know why I hadn't ever picked it up. And I saw it and I was like, I feel like I don't have this on my shelf already. It was really fun. I liked it a lot.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. This was fun. Where can folks find you on the internet, and where can they support your Kickstarter? And you have a Patreon too, right?
Yes. Yeah. I call them the Trve crew. They are really cool. The community is incredible, and everyone's kind of like an aspiring creator, or they write or things like that, and just a really rad group of people. You can find that, and actually all of my social media as well as Patreon and my website is Liana Kangas, and I'm sure hopefully it'll be spelled
well.
I feel so bad that I have a complicated name, but I was like, well, at least it's interesting and maybe memorable.
No, I mean, like, I was talking to Cena Grace last week about this, and he said his name is unique enough that he can get his name on all social media and like emails and all that. Like, it's just no one else has his name. So I'm sure you
exactly.
Yeah. So
I relate heavily. That's awesome. Yeah. So I update my Twitter constantly, but I also have Twitch as well. And I would love to have you on if you ever want to chat about music again.
Oh, music, comics, whatever. I'm in.
Yeah.
Anytime.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. I'm going to end the stream, but I'm going to say goodbye to you in a minute. So thanks for watching,
Perfect.
everybody. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.